Okay. I think the first step in trying to relay this information is that I'm going to have to go backwards and talk about what the old witch cults really did. And I'm going to try to tie in Wicca of today so that it's functional for you, so that you have a foundation that you can use. So I think we'll start here. This picture that you're seeing here is very iconic, and it is really sort of the true, for European people of European descent, what god and goddess really looked like for you. England its true title is the land of Ing. And Ing is the true name of the god Frey, or who we know as Frey, and he has many other names. And Inga is the true name of the goddess Freya. Ing and Inga. So they are cosmic brothers and sisters, or cosmic twins, cosmic lovers, mother and father, that sort of thing. The rune Inguz is both Ing and Inga in sexual union, and it is also the womb of Inga. It is also the cauldron, something a lot of you probably don't know. So the old fertility cults, where they would watch animals have sex, humans learned how to procreate. They probably had already figured out, but they watched animals to really kind of figure it out further. They followed elk. They followed and learned their they learned their migration. They picked through their bones. They wore their skins. They were interlinked fully to these beasts that they hunted. They were usually going to be the horned beasts, and so they revered them because their meat gave them life, their fur gave them warmth and clothing, and they realized that when they died, their bodies would rot, and the forest would grow fungus and mushrooms on them, which they would then eat and have hallucinogenic properties, and they would go visit the spirits of the dead. And then grass and trees and whatnot would grow up out of the dead bodies, and then the animals would eat them. So it made only sense that they ate the animals ate them, and everything lived in a giant symbiotic circle. That was just the way it was. Man, because he was the hunter, because he lived among the forest, tracked the animals, became man and beast. He became parts of the forest. He became the herbs that he would go and gather. He became the animals that he hunted. The woman was the representation of the earth. Things seemed to spring up out of the ground. She gave birth from her body of a new child. So the woman, or the goddess, represented the earth itself. Man was the things of the earth. This is a very, very important concept if you're going to think about what Wicca is and what your role is. Another issue that really comes up is the role of homosexuals within Wicca. I'm probably going to get some hell for this as well. I truly believe that even if you are a gay male, that you cannot express as a goddess. You cannot hold the position of a priestess. That's just my personal feeling. And from doing ritual with men who try to hold a position of a priestess, the energy just doesn't work out. It's not there, because you have the astral blueprint that gave you a penis. So energetically, there's enough masculinity in there that you manifested as a man. However, and I can't believe we're even talking about this, that is why hermaphrodites were such a bizarre and actually sometimes revered as gods themselves, because they truly came down and had both sexual organs. I don't know the whole biochemistry going on there, and I'm sure that there's a ton of exceptions to every rule, but just in general, it is thought within this coven that men are priests, women are priestesses, and the two do not try to cross. However, within this coven, there are a couple gay people, and they are treated wonderfully. So, I mean, there is no homophobia. I just really want to put it out there. As someone who is a high priest of Wicca, I had to go and earn everything that I got. So I was lucky enough to be in a coven that understood that you have to do everything by deed and not just thought. So when it came time for me to earn my horns, I was taken to a place where I had 3 days to go and find an animal that had my horns. I had to astrally hunt him down first, and then I had to hunt him down in the physical. I had to make it a quick and clean kill. I had to honor the spirit in the way that my ancestors would have, and I had to skin and prepare the body and take the horns and prepare my horn crown from the body of that animal. And that was one of the most powerful things that I've ever been through. When it was time for me to earn my sword, I had to learn the mystery of the sword. The sword cuts both ways, so I had to cut I had to cut somebody else, and then the sword I had to cut myself. I had to learn what it felt like on both ends. Now, these are things that I really got to stress, be very careful with, because, you know, you've got to be so responsible and so mature with it that people can really hurt themselves in the way that, you know, the tradition that I was brought up in. But that's one of the reasons I have the authority that I have. It's because I had to go through those steps, and I had to show that I understood what it meant to cut someone else and to get cut myself. I respect that sword. Now, most people will say, well, you can never use a sword that's had blood on it. I want to tell you how bullshit that is, because let me tell you, those old weapons of the past, those old clubs, those old stone axes, the ones who did the most killing were the ones that were revered the most, because in those days, when you used those weapons, you were defending your tribe. And when you brought those weapons back and you held the energy of the god of that tribe, it was the god of the tribe that gave you the power to defend it. So let's just end this nonsense here about how your sword, you know, should never have tasted blood. In fact, it should have. That way, it will know, and you will know what life is. You know, I had to spend a great deal of time watching how life ate life. You know, that's why vultures and ravens and things that eat the dead had such a bizarre reverence for very dark witch cults, because few things actually eat dead things. You know, scavengers are the minority in nature. Most of nature, life hunts down and eats life. So you also have to learn the mystery that to be alive is to eat somebody else, is to eat something else. And the trick is not to try to get away from that. The trick is to learn how to do it in the most responsible and virtuous way that you can. And it is always to thank and honor what gave you the energy to go on. And it is to learn the mystery that selfishness is not about taking. It is about not giving back. You have to fully give yourself over to, you need to make a life for yourself. You need to defend what's yours. You need to make a life for your family. You need to make a life for your coven. You need to make a life for your friends. You need to, all these things. You know, your community is so important. You need to help make a life for them. And sometimes that means taking. Well, in essence, it always means taking, but But sometimes it means actually, doing something that people would consider taking. But you have to give yourself over to the fact that eventually one day you will have to give. And you need to be very clear that if you take, you need to, they do have that old adage, freely take and freely give. That's true. That really is. The Wiccan Rede actually comes from an old witch cult, and it's not entirely made up. So that is one thing of modern day Wicca that is still true. There is a lot of passages of that thing that is absolutely made up. But they took a lot of things from the real witch cults. So as a priest, you need to learn that your purpose is to give your life and possibly even take life in order to protect and serve your tribe or your coven. As a priest, you hold the sword. Now, here's an interesting thing about the sword. The sword is bestowed upon you by the earth. So the metal, the steel, the wood, all those things that went into making your sword, your physical representation of masculine energy that can cut both ways, as is the energy of a man, which is the impulse to create and destroy, that comes to you from the earth, which is the woman. So the woman gives or delegates power to you to be able to do the dirty work and hold position and hold the line and do whatever you got to do to make sure that at the end of the day that your people are safe. That theme carries over in almost every single culture, where you have the old and even the Christianized, although they really tried to work around it, Lady of the Lake, who gave King Arthur Excalibur. The lady gave Excalibur the sword, or the sword from the stone. He had to pull the stone from the grasp of the earth goddess, okay? These are very important things to think about. When the sword was broken, he had to return it to the Lady of the Lake. He had to then atone for what he had done before she gave him the authority back. This really says that the old witch cults understood the necessary balance between masculine and feminine energies. That to create life, which was a profound act, that two people could get together of opposite sex and say, let's create life together. That is just extreme. And in these days, it's almost kind of like played down. Oh, she had a baby, big deal. But back then, when it was of great importance, where your tribe may have been whittled down to like 5 people. It went from 20, and over the long winter, you're now at 5. The psychological mindfuck of that just is not something that most people could truly get. If 80% of your friends died one winter, you would get it. You would be like, whoa, we better have some kids. And so you would understand how important it was for them to create life. That's why the old witch cults were very based around fertility and agriculture and we're life promoting, but at the same time, they very much understood the mysteries, the horror, the beauty, the mercy that death was, all at the same time. But they didn't have to shy away from anything either, because it was just part of their natural rhythm. They understood the natural rhythm. They understood that there was a time in all seasons for certain things. Let me get deeper into the witch cult so you could bring it into your Wiccan covens. I'll be right back for part 3.